Dear friends from the Nelson Mandela Foundation and the Nelson Mandela University, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to join you this morning for the timely seminar on climate change and food insecurity. Let me start actually by saying greetings from the United Nations family here in South Africa. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be with you in person, but I'm certainly happy to provide this video framing message on a topic that is so important to the world and to South Africa today. It showcases how many of the challenges we're facing are interlinked, and as such, cannot be solved in isolation, but by working together, whole of society, whole of economy. The topic we're considering this morning really relates to the Sustainable Development Goals, and several of them are relevant here, and we cannot achieve one without achieving the others. Take, for example, Goal 2 on zero hunger and Goal 13 on climate action. These are very relevant to all the other SDGs, especially life on Earth, life below water, how we produce, consume, and how we live in sustainable cities, and how much energy and the type of energy we use as well is really important, and how we grow our food. So it's really consequential that we think about how the interconnection between the goals are to be advanced. We look at how children who suffer from hunger cannot study effectively. They can be stunted and often abandoned on their way to school or cannot go to school. Therefore, it is important that as we look at addressing issues of nutrition, world hunger, how we feed children, how we feed ourselves, how we grow food, how we trade food, that we think about the importance of the opportunities we provide to people, but also social cohesion and how we work towards fostering peace, prosperity, and justice, how we live with the planet and how we live with one another. Climate change definitely has a huge impact on food security because food systems and the land issues related to that rely on natural resources that are extremely vulnerable to the rapidly changing conditions of the climate and around us. Therefore, while it's true that moderate increases in temperature and carbon dioxide levels may enhance crop yields in specific regions, these benefits are contingent upon various factors, including nutrient levels, soil moisture, and water availability. However, the frequency and severity of extreme weather events, such as droughts and floods, are becoming increasingly unpredictable and damaging to climate change. In our sub-region, the effects of El Nino are still unfolding, and we will come back to that in another part of this statement. These events pose significant challenges for farmers and threaten both food security and safety, as droughts lead to crop failures and water shortages, while floods destroy crops, infrastructure, and livelihoods. Moreover, fluctuations in weather patterns disrupt traditional farming practices and exacerbate existing vulnerabilities within agricultural systems. The interlinkages, therefore, between climate change and food insecurity are significant and complex, with impacts at national and subnational levels, and as I mentioned earlier, even at global and regional level. In view of such disasters, both natural and man-made, it is imperative that the country and the region and the continent invest in early warning systems and associated anticipatory action to minimize impacts, build resilience, and protect lives. This is the only way to ensure no one is left behind. The Food and Agriculture Organization has recently released a report on the impact of disasters on agriculture and food security. Working with the World Food Programme and even OCHA, a sub-regional assessment has also been rolled out with regards to the impacts of El Nino. All of these assessments and reports note that disasters are producing unprecedented levels of damage and loss in agriculture around the world, affecting the functioning and sustainability of agricultural production and threatening the livelihoods of millions of people relying on agricultural food systems. These impacts are amplified by underlying factors and vulnerabilities created by social conditions such as global pandemics and conflict situations. To address these complex and interrelated challenges, new approaches to risk reduction and response mechanisms are required. Just last month, my boss, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, addressed the UN Security Council meeting, stating that climate and conflict are two leading drivers of our global food crisis. Empty bellies fuel unrest. Conflict can easily be sparked where tensions are high, institutions are weak, and people are marginalized. Where wars rage, hunger reigns, whether due to displacement of people, destruction of agriculture, damage to infrastructure, or deliberate policies of denial. In Africa, an estimated 58 million people are facing food insecurity, while almost 18.6 million children are stunted. And in our sub-region, the Southern Africa region, the challenge of food insecurity is served with a harsh reality where 1 in 5 people face hunger, a rate more than double the global average. 1 in 5 people facing hunger. South Africa has its own challenges regarding the country's food system, with about 20% of households facing food insecurity, according to the recent census results. South Africa is particularly vulnerable to climate change because of its high dependence on climate-sensitive economic sectors and agriculture. The recent floods that devastated KZN and the Eastern Cape serve again as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness between climate and agriculture and livelihoods. Most pressing question is, how do we change this? What do we do about this? With less than 6 years left to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we really have no choice but to course correct and embrace a paradigm shift and collectively embark on a journey towards an inclusive, equitable, healthy, sustainable, and resilient future, leaving no one behind. We must therefore blend together, work across sectors, across the economy, across society, and draw interlinkages across policy, knowledge, innovation, finance, climate action, education, and decent work, market systems, trading approaches, and elements to create solutions that are comprehensive and sustainable, whilst also recognizing that there's no one size that fits all. In the South African context, for example, advancing without addressing the vexed issue of land reforms and land redistribution cannot address this problem. At the United Nations Secretary General and Member States also convened the Food Systems Summit. First summit and then a reoccurrence 2 years after. And during this summit, the Secretary General again said, broken food systems are not inevitable. They are the result of choices we have made. There is more than enough food in the world to go around, more than enough money to fund efficient and sustainable food systems to feed the world, while supporting decent work for those who grow the food we eat. Thus, this pertinent statement from the Secretary General implies that as much as our choices have resulted in insufficient food systems, we can decide, and we must decide otherwise. The government of South Africa and partners are committed to addressing these challenges. For example, through the Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan that aims to develop a globally competitive agriculture and agro-processing sector, support market-oriented and inclusive production in rural economies, ensure food security, and create employment and entrepreneurship. That is why the UN is very happy to be supporting the government in efforts through our Rome-based agencies, including the World Food Programme, Food and Agriculture Organization, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and expanding this group to include UN Women, UNDP, UNICEF, and others who also have a part to play in this regard. We are acting in a coordinated fashion in enhancing food security, rural investment, sustainable agriculture, all leading to improved livelihoods, enhancing the lot of small farmers, smallholder and rural farmers, women farmers, young people and entrepreneurs who will embrace a resilient approach and a value chain that is strengthened, and thereby extending nutrition programs and providing livelihood training, especially, like I said, to vulnerable women and young people, so that entrepreneurship capacity is reinforced. It is imperative that we prioritize resilient building measures within agricultural communities and involve stakeholders from these communities in the decision-making processes as we move forward. This involves investing in climate-smart agricultural practices, such as drought-resistant crop varieties and soil conservation techniques. Fellow participants, an example I would like to point to is the fact that we need to look at returning to the cultivation of millet crops, as they hold significant importance due to their unparalleled nutritional value and resilience, and how all of this comes together to help us fight climate change. And because of this, millets are vital in combating malnutrition and contributes to sustainable agricultural practices. Transitioning to renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power and improving energy efficiency enhances energy security and resilience. Supporting smallholder farmers in adopting these sustainable farming techniques is crucial for enhancing their resilience to climate change impacts. By addressing the root causes of climate change and building adaptive capacity within the agricultural sector, we can mitigate the impacts of extreme weather events and safeguard food security for future generations. That is why it is important that we implement all of these measures so that we can pave the way towards a more sustainable and resilient future for agriculture and food systems worldwide. Agriculture and food systems worldwide that are resilient to the impacts of climate change. What I therefore urge all of you to do is to join us so that collectively we can play our part, from academia to civil society to the private sector to traditional leaders, smallholder farmers, women and young people, strengthening the partnerships that we have and collectively mobilize intentionally our efforts so that we can truly transition and embrace this paradigm shift towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. We salute you, we see you, we need you, we're ready to work with all of you. And I therefore wish you a successful seminar with fruitful discussions and outcomes that will pave the way and rally others around this crucial effort for people and planet, and ensuring that food security or insecurity is fundamentally and comprehensively tackled. I thank you all, and I look forward to hearing about the outcomes of these deliberations, and also for my team to participate over the next 2 days. Once more, thank you again to the Nelson Mandela University, and of course, our friends at Nelson Mandela Foundation.